A warm welcome to Dream 100 Business Show. This is the show wherein we help business owners to understand and gain insights. Since you are a leadership coach, I would like to ask you a few questions. Can you tell us a case study of how you helped a business owner start from something like zero and hit some real good numbers?
All right. Yeah, it wasn't too long ago. I was working with a US-based client. She was in a startup. She was not the senior leadership, but the leadership, so director / VP, I believe, in marketing, which is something that I'm familiar with. And she was, I'll be honest, she was pissed off about everything, because none of it was her fault. It was always her boss. It was all the people in her team, etc., etc., etc. And what happened is that she became almost reluctant to generate results because she was just disgruntled with her supervisor, or I think it was the CEO, and obviously her team was disgruntled with her. And by speaking with her extensively, we were able to move her from a position of blame and being the victim into a position of, hey, I actually have some ownership over the results. I now see what I do to hurt the results. I now see that I have an agency that I can actually, I see that I can change stuff. And I think by switching her from one mindset to the other one, she was able to get her team to come back on board with her as a person, to become more trustful of her intentions. And that then generated results, and those results then got her back the trust of the senior leadership. So yeah, those kind of stuff.
Awesome. So here, one thing is a leader is accountable for the growth and success of the company. So how do you bring in that kind of accountability in leaders so that they can transfer it to their team as well?
How to bring accountability to themselves. Honestly, if a leader doesn't feel accountability from a natural standpoint, then there is a much bigger problem. Then the leader probably doesn't care about the vision of the company, or is already in such a state of unhappiness that it doesn't matter anymore. But generally what happens, what helps for these leaders is to align the company goals with what they actually want to achieve. Now, if you are extremely unhappy with your position in a company, then you can either keep on telling yourself, I'm extremely unhappy with my position in my company, or you can say, hey, if I would do slightly better, then I can unlock this opportunity. Or then I think I make a stand a chance to move to this company, or then I can get a new position within my current company. So instead of putting the accountability and making it a company goal, we try and shift it to a personal goal, because people generally care more about themselves than about anything else. So that kind of helps. I think for the team accountability, it's slightly different. Individuals are all unique. So each individual will have a different way of showing accountability. And that also means that the leader has a different way of viewing accountability. What we try and help people with is to set very clear goals for the team, and make sure that each and every one is working on the same path towards that goal. Now, what does that mean? Let's say there's a following hypothetical scenario. We want to have $2 million of revenue next year. All right, let's do it. Right, an exciting goal. We all want to get that. If we do that, then we unlock this trip to any nice destination as a company sponsored retreat. And then without getting the team all the ducks in a row, or as we say in the Netherlands, all the frogs in the wheel carriage. Yeah, we say weird stuff in the Netherlands. Mm-hmm. Without that, we can't make them accountable to each other. So that's the point, right? We want them to walk on the same path towards the same objective. And by creating a level of trust and dependency from within the different team members, we actually make them accountable to each other, as opposed to just accountable to the result. And I think that really worked for me very well, is to get them to bond, to get them to trust and to need each other. Because generally speaking, I feel like team members like each other more than they like their leader. So I try and use that to my advantage.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. That's a great insight which you just shared. Have you worked with cross cultures? Now, in case, let's say, somebody in India wants to take your service, you have you worked with Indians earlier?
Have I worked with Indians? I have not worked with Indians specifically. I've worked with Thai, Malaysians, Singaporeans, US, Dutch, and Australians. Not with Indians. But yeah, I mean, there's this quote from Pippi Longbottom, a Longstocking. It's a cartoon that I watched when I was very young, and she said, "Well, I've never done it, so I might be very good at it." So from that perspective, I'd love to try.
Awesome. So, since you have worked with this people around the globe, what is that one thing, common factor among all the leaders that you have found?
What is the common trait they have? That's a really, really good question. I think what every individual wants is a sense of appreciation. And it's either they give that themselves or they crave it from someone else. It's like the internal and the external validation part. And that doesn't mean that external is not worse than internal or in any way. But as a leader, you don't necessarily get that appreciation very often unless you do something really, really amazing. And I think that is something that these leaders usually have. They have this inner drive to hold on to the fort when the storms are heavy, and they have the ability to praise themselves when they know they've done something well. And I think that's also very necessary because I mainly work with people in the startups. And in startups, we don't go around and tell people, "Hey, you've done a great job. Wow, this is awesome." We just expect people to, work themselves to the bones in a way, and to keep on trying. And that can be very, very tough. But having that sense of internal validation, that I see that generally work for leaders in this industry. Yeah.
Mhm. Awesome. So, what is your advice to all startup leaders? Because we have a lot of startups in India. So, since you have worked with a lot of startups, what is that one advice which you think will be valid for every startup owner?
Well, call me first of all. That's a no-brainer. Uh, I think the other part is we always think there's a few things we can do at a later time. We're going to look into branding later. It's not necessary now. But also, we're not doing learning and development at this moment because people, they need to be vision driven. Otherwise, I don't want them in the first place. And that's a big mistake. The people who join you at the early stage are going to be the people that could thrive you to the IPO at a later stage. And you need to hold on to them at all costs because they're more than just people who know the business. They're people who are the advocates of culture. They're the people who are going to be the agents of change whenever you need to get something done. So whatever you do, make sure you retain the people. This hire fast, fire fast thing that was popular a few years ago, literally the dumbest thing I've heard in a very long time. Hold on to the people, appreciate them, retain them, because without them, you are nothing.
So, one last question. How will you know how long to hold on and how to let go? Because a person or a team member might not be a performing member, or even a business owner might not be hitting the right kind of results. So, how long do you think a person should feel that, okay, this is it, I need to give up, or one last push, I never know, I might hit the ceiling?
Yeah. Well, there's this. I listened to this podcast a long time ago, and it was about the Peters Principle. And the Peters Principle means that you will be promoted throughout your entire life until this one time that you hit your ceiling, and that's when you get fired. It's a very dramatic look at it. So if somebody does well, obviously they keep on moving, but at some point people will have hit their ceiling. And there is a difference between the ceiling they hit and what you can stretch them to become. If you feel like you as a business owner or you as a team lead have been stretching yourself above and beyond to get somebody to the next level, and you feel that either you are not a great leader or the person has just hit his max. And that's fine. Then you don't need to fire it. Then you just don't need to promote it and put it in a position where you know that person will be stably driving growth for that company in that department or on that specific aspect. Then you don't need to invest any more resources in L&D.
Awesome. So, what is that one great trait in you as a leader which you have found out for yourself?
Well, this is this is a funny story. When I worked in Bangkok for a while, and when I worked there, I wasn't as fun and as joyful as I am nowadays. In fact, I would say I wasn't that friendly at all. I was very much of an authoritarian leader. And what happened one day is I was in the office earlier than everybody else because I used to go to the gym and then to the office, and it's Bangkok, so it was freaking hot. So I would switch on the AC at like 18 degrees, 5 bars, full strength, and then it cooled down. I think after a week or so, I started noticing that the people in my team were wearing scarves and big sweaters, and they were sneezing, etc. And I was like, I am also freezing, right? I would go out during a lunch break to buy a sweater because I was cold, man. What I realized is that my team was afraid to touch the button on the AC because the boss said so that it had to be like this, to the extent where they got sick themselves. Now that made me a little bit sick about myself. I think that's what I really learned: the ability to observe the non-verbal cues, the ability to adapt to different people and understand the perspectives that are coming from, as opposed to seeing everything through my lens, through my view. It just took me some time, but yeah, I think that's something that I've really learned throughout all of my experiences.
Great. You have learned through your experiences and you are walking the talk now. It's great to see joyful leaders. I think that is the energy that as a leader one has to exhibit, because that is there the vibe catches on, and from there people start
Absolutely.
changing. So,
Yeah,
any
absolutely.
thoughts on that?
As a leader, you need to walk the talk. It's exactly what you say, right? If we say we expect people to work hard, then you can't go around laying in your pool drinking your margarita at 3 p.m. Then you have to walk the talk. And unfortunately, right, people respond to the energy you carry. And if you're in a bad mood, then your team will shut down, be afraid to share whatever they have to share with you, be afraid to give you bad news. It is literally your energy that determines the input, that determines their output. The way I carry myself around the team makes them carry that same way around the team. And that is, I think, a very important thing. Be yourself, be joyful, be open, and be friendly, because people will F up. That just happens. But so will you. So that's just a fact. So let's accept it that people make mistakes and embrace them and learn from them and stay optimistic because we got the learning from it. So that we can move on to a next stage in which we will again make a mistake, just not that one, because we already made it and we learned from it. And with that optimistic mindset, I think you'll get a lot further than punishing your team for the mistakes that they will inevitably make.
Super insight. Well, Lex, thank you so much for all your wonderful insights and sharing. We will just air this episode. Like, as I said, this was totally impromptu. Neither I had thought about anything. Just like that, it was a conversation. So we will go ahead with this. And then let's see if people have questions. And if they come back, we will do a second episode based on the questions people want to know from you, like what are the right answers. So this is an open thing for whoever is listening. If you have any questions, just go right ahead and share it with us. We will have one more episode with Lex. Thank you so much, Lex, for your time.
Thank you so much. It was very fun.